Let me tell you about the day a courtroom forgot what justice looked like, and the day a broken soldier reminded everyone how it feels to truly stand for something, even if he physically couldn't. You ever see a judge bang a gavel so hard you think the old wood might just split? That was how it started. Judge Brooks's voice, sharp and cold, cutting through the silence, ordering Sergeant Keene to rise for sentencing. But, yeah, nobody in that room expected what happened next. I sure didn't. I mean, you walk into a courtroom and expect the usual routine. Defendants shifting in cheap suits, lawyers pretending not to sweat, the flag drooping behind the bench, just another Wednesday in America. Only, this time, everyone in that faded old room was about to have their idea of respect and law turned inside out. The place smelled like lemon cleaner, but underneath that was a weight. Years of worry and broken dreams clinging to the oak panels, to the scuffed tile floors, to the people crammed into the gallery. And there was David Keene, Sergeant David Keene, 34, face marked with lines you just don't get from a desk job, a right leg gone thanks to an IED in Iraq, left hand that trembled every now and then, like the past wouldn't ever let him go. His wheelchair looked more military than medical, beaten up, reliable. But even that chair seemed out of place, jammed up by the defense table, like the folks who built this courthouse never pictured a hero rolling in. Before the war, he was a physics teacher, right there in the same county, always staying late for his students, coaching wrestling, probably the last guy anyone would peg for trouble. After September 11th, he shipped out, not for glory, but because, well, duty runs in the blood. His dad had done Vietnam. That old photo of his students waving him off still sat by his bed, even though those kids had grown up, moved on. After the bomb, after the surgeries, he came home and turned his tiny apartment into the unofficial headquarters for veterans tangled up in VA paperwork. Funny thing, the only reason he was in court was some busted traffic ticket. He'd swerved his hand-controlled car to dodge a texting driver, missed 3 hearings because the courthouse was impossible to reach with his wheelchair, and every request for help had been brushed off with procedures. Like the law was a vending machine you could just shake for a better outcome. Presiding was Judge Elena Brooks, who'd built a reputation on being as strict as they come. 20 years on the bench, father was military, and some folks whispered she was even tougher on vets, as if to prove she wasn't sentimental about it. Maybe it was true, maybe not, but that day, you could feel the room tense up when she entered. Nobody breathed easy. The case was announced, and she wasted no time. Mr. Keene, 4th time before the court, repeated failure to appear, on and on. David's lawyer, a young guy named Marcus, tried to explain about the bus routes, about the lack of access, but David put a gentle hand on his arm and said, "I can speak for myself." His voice wasn't loud, but it had that weight, the kind that gets people's attention, you know what I mean? He explained how the nearest bus stop was 8 blocks away, no ramps, no way for him to make it. He'd asked for video hearings for a different courthouse. Judge Brooks cut him off. The law applies equally to everyone. Murmurs went through the room, and I swear, I saw an old man in a battered Korean War cap shake his head. David kept at it, not asking for special treatment, just equal access, as the ADA guarantees. The judge snapped back. This court is well aware of federal statutes. What it won't tolerate is being lectured on the law by a defendant. Marcus tried again. My client is a decorated veteran. She cut him down. That doesn't place him above the law. He should respect it more. Then, just like that, she told David to stand for sentencing. Marcus started to protest, saying David physically couldn't. But the judge insisted, defendants show proper respect by standing. David looked right at her. I would stand if I could. I have a prosthetic, but today's not a good day. The judge's face was all irritation, saying, no medical personnel here to confirm that. I see a defendant trying to win sympathy. Stand or be held in contempt. Silence crashed over the room. David nodded, gripped the wheelchair, tried to rise, face twisting with pain, hands white-knuckled, sweat on his brow. For one shaky moment, he was up, fighting for dignity in front of the world. But then the tremors hit, his balance gave out, and he fell hard, crashing down by the defense table. Marcus rushed to help, but David, even from the floor, tried to get up again. "Help me," he muttered, jaw clenched. "If the court wants me to stand, I'll stand." That's when the twist hit. The old Korean War vet in the gallery stood up. "I'll stand for him." Then a middle-aged woman in a postal uniform. "My son served with men like him. I'll stand too." And like dominoes, the whole courtroom rose, bailiff, clerk, even the board reporter in the back. Only Judge Brooks stayed seated, her authority slipping. "Order," she barked, but nobody sat. David looked around. lifted by the wave of support. With Marcus's help, he got back into his chair, said quietly, "It appears I'm standing now, through them." Judge Brooks was, for once, at a loss. That's when the doors opened. Here comes Colonel Jennifer Ramirez, U.S. Army JAG Corps, walking right up to the bench. She'd been sent by the VA to observe after complaints about the treatment of disabled veterans. Judge Brooks tried to push her out, but Ramirez handed over a federal order, saying she had the right to be there. She didn't mince words. What she'd seen troubled her deeply. Judge Brooks called a recess, swept into her chambers with Colonel Ramirez right behind. Inside, photos of David in Iraq, standing tall, then in the hospital, then receiving the Purple Heart in the same wheelchair he was in today. Ramirez told the judge the whole story, David's injuries, his pain, how some days he could use the prosthetic, some days not at all. The judge was forced to face her own past, her father, tough as nails, never accepting weakness, drinking himself to death rather than admit he needed help. Colonel Ramirez laid it out. There's a difference between weakness and disability, and equal justice isn't one size fits all. When they came back out, everything felt different. Judge Brooks, suddenly human, apologized, said the court owed David respect, that dignity ran both ways. She dismissed the charges, ordered changes to accommodate disabilities, even called for a full review of the courthouse's accessibility. David thanked her, and when she tried to adjourn, he asked to speak. "I'm not asking for special treatment, just the chance for veterans to participate fully. Sometimes that means understanding, not exemption." The judge nodded, dismissed court, and the moment could have ended there. But when David rolled outside, the news was already spreading, first local, then national. People reached out from all over, veterans and advocates, lawyers offering to help. David never wanted to be the face of anything, just a teacher who'd served. But you don't always pick your battles, they pick you. He declined the class action lawsuit, but agreed to testify before the Senate. The night before the hearing, Judge Brooks visited him, no robe, just a tired woman with too many ghosts. She told him about her father, about how fear and pride could destroy a person, and how seeing David fight had forced her to change. She gave him the new accessibility guidelines she'd put in place, and for the first time, it felt like maybe something good could come out of all the pain. At the Senate hearing, David put aside his written statement. "I'm here because, a couple weeks ago, I couldn't stand in a courtroom, and something remarkable happened. I found out that true justice is accessible only if we're willing to stand together." He described the moment, how, when he couldn't stand, others did. He told the senators, "It's not special treatment to need a ramp. I'm just asking for the dignity to be seen as whole." The room went quiet, and one by one, senators rose to their feet. Reporters, veterans, staffers, everyone stood. The image went everywhere, David in his wheelchair, America on its feet. Laws changed. Courthouses across the country fixed their access. Judge Brooks helped lead training for other judges, sharing her story, changing minds. On Memorial Day, David spoke at Arlington, said, "Remembrance without action is hollow. True honor is how we treat those who come home changed." Later, he visited his old commander's grave. "We're making progress, sir. Slow but real." Frank, the Korean War vet, showed up too, said he'd been thinking about his buddy, who'd come home to a country that didn't care. "Things are changing," David said. "Because of people like you," Frank replied. They walked together, no words needed, just a quiet promise. A year later, Courtroom 7 was different. Wider aisles, ramps, a bench lowered so the judge could see eye to eye with anyone. Judge Brooks stood beside an empty wheelchair, a reminder that justice should see beyond limitations. "It's a start," she said, and David agreed. That night, David got a message from a young soldier at Walter Reed. "I don't know if I can do this." "How do you keep going?" David answered. "The hardest part isn't living with what you've lost. It's remembering what you still have to give. You don't have to stand for something. And when you can't stand alone, others will stand with you. That's not weakness. That's real strength." So here's the thing. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do isn't standing up by yourself. Sometimes it's letting others stand with you, and knowing that, in doing so, you're not just helping yourself. You're helping everyone remember what dignity and justice look like. What would you have done if you were in that courtroom? What does real justice mean to you? Drop your thoughts below. Let's talk about it.